Hello, my name is Irene Kertchaval. Welcome to my show, Heart and Soul. I want to tell you a little about myself. Well, we might as well start where I was born, Memphis, Tennessee. I lived there until age 5. My mom brought my sister and myself to Cotton Plant, Arkansas, where we lived for 3 years. She and my newborn brother, they went on to Chicago, where my mom gained employment, which was the idea, and then sent for us. And she did 3 years later. But the best thing that ever happened was those 3 years at my grandparents'. Oh, I just felt like a black Cinderella. It was just a delicious experience. I tell you, everything they said a child could not do, because after all, these are your grandparents. They have certain rules in the house and you must follow those rules. And one of those rules, stay out of the living room, do the work they assign you to do. But with me, it was just a fascination about being in their presence, the things that I observed. I wanted them to know how proud I was of them. And the living room, where I was told, stay out of the living room, that's for grown-ups. I had to go in there, and I would call my grandmother and say, you know, I just love what you've done here in this room. And she would proceed on to tell me about the telephone chair that my Uncle Elbert had made. She would go on to tell me about the different things that she would receive from my uncles that served in World War II. So I was fascinated by it all. And then too, not just with her, with my grandfather as well. He would fix me coffee in the morning, and if you call it coffee, a lot of milk in it. And I would say, grandfather, I just love this coffee. And so everything about my experience in Cotton Plant was the foundation that would make me feel anywhere I land my feet is my home. And it was such a delicious experience. And then too, when my mom came down, she actually came down and she visited, but my grandmother actually brought us to Chicago. And I was fascinated on the train and seeing the downtown Chicago. And I was just a child that was capturing everything around me. But not to lay too long on that, it was when in school we were enrolled at this most progressive school. And it might find you to find it interesting that at that school was the most dynamic civil rights activists. You had Sarona Clayton. She was the founder, later founder of the Trumpet Awards. She was a major executive that was one of the first members at CNN when Ted Turner founded CNN. Also, Emmett Till's mom taught at my school. Mrs. Bale, who invited me over to see her dog collections. And she was later featured in Jet magazine. You had James Farmer, civil rights activist. He was a substitute teacher. And all my teachers, they loved me, including the principal, Mrs. Weisberg. And I was an advocate. I was an advocate because all those kids that were being picked on, including my sister, my brother, and if you were light complexion coming to my school, I needed to step up and protect you, not by fighting, but just letting you know you are okay and you are my friend. If you were dark, in coming to my school, you were going to be picked on. So I had to let you two know you are my friend, so stay with me. And I have to say, I was just loving the school. I was involved in everything, spelling bee, great debater, you name it, I had to be a part of it. And so I had all this support system. My family was proud of me. My teachers were proud of me. My community was proud of me. So I had everything going for me. And in a flash, sadly, it was all taken away. Well, let me give you the backstory. My neighbor worked as a domestic, so she was always bringing me beautiful clothes. And I love the clothes, the color, the fabric, the quality. And what was routine for me was to take pictures. So I went to this particular studio this one day, and I had a green suit that I especially liked. So I had myself photographed in that suit, and I was told the day to come back to pick up the pictures. I took a bus to the studio to get my pictures. On my arrival, I was told the price, and with that price, it would mean using my bus fare home. But I was so excited to get the pictures, so I paid for the pictures and decided to walk home. On my way home on this very hot day, I was excited, and no sooner than I had walked maybe for about 5 minutes, this car drives up. There was this light complexion black man, I'll never forget it, with a red plaid shirt. Also, what I will never forget is a bias about skin tone, because I knew to say no to that man and not get in the car with him. But what happened as I walked on with my pictures, and it was getting hotter, the pavement, I took my shoes off because my feet were hurting. Then this same man comes back again and offers me a ride. Well, I'm in so much pain. Now, I would tell you, if that man had been a dark-skinned man, I would not have gotten in the car with him. That's sad. But because he was light complexion, I saw kindness, I felt that he would not harm me, and I got in the car. I was not a half block, or a little more than a half block. He turns right, and I said to him, "You cannot get to my house this way." And no sooner than I'm saying this, he's pulling up, 2 men waiting for him, one with some weapon, I do not recall, the other with a knife. I was pushed back into the car. I felt that my life was on the line. I was terrified. And all I could think about was my mom. And if I was killed, what would happen to her? Emotionally, would she move on? So I had to try to strategize to save myself. So the conversation was about my mom and how the pain that she was in daily, how she walked with a limp. And I just kept on talking. And eventually they pushed me out of the car. But I didn't have my pictures. I did not have my pictures. And that later made moving forward difficult, because now they have my pictures. And will they come looking for me later? So I go in, I ask to use a phone at a house there in the area. My mom picked me up. We go to the police station. At the police station, they tell my mom they will bring me home. I didn't think, how odd is that? So while they're at the police station, first of all, they had a chair out in the middle of the floor. They asked me to move my underapparel. Then they asked me to spread my legs. I was feeling as violated at that moment as I did when I was shoved back into the car by these criminals.
Were there any female police officers?
No, no.
So
we're talking 60 years ago.
Okay, so expound on that.
Well, then one of the officers, they really did not ask me the questions you would think, given what I went through, the details that they would want from me, which led me to believe they were no better than what I had just experienced. The fact that I needed to take my apparel off and spread my legs, that put them in the same category. So this officer that was taking me home, rather than to go directly to my house, he went to this high-rise where he lived and asked me to come up while he go up. I lost it. I literally lost it. I started telling him, it was like a testimony in church. I started telling him about all my teachers at the school. I named them all. I started giving him all the activities that I was involved with in the school. I just started railing off all the hopes and dreams that my family, my community had for me. I just went railing. I was just losing it. It was just a surreal moment. I want to believe, and I cannot say absolutely, but I think at this point he was crying. But I do know he was begging me, please, please don't tell anyone about this. Please don't tell anyone about this. Of course, when I did get home, he took me home, I told my mom. But you have to understand the times. If you're thinking my mom hugged me, if you're thinking my mom had the right consoling words to give me, even if it was in her heart and she felt it, she did not have that ability to express back to me. So as a result, I internalized it all. I shut down. But what I was determined not to do was to let those two events trap me, keep me from moving on and progressing. I refuse to let that happen, because as a very young child, I got this solid foundation, and I was not going to let that tragic, dark episode dictate my life going forward. I was still going to be this achiever. I was still going to be someone that excelled. I was a collector. I loved all things. I collected leaves and identified leaves. I had notebooks for everything like I do now. I currently have 15 notebooks. But I felt the pain. What it did, I did not trust. It shut down my ability to trust. But on a more serious level, I learned something. And what I learned is that God will not put any more on you than you can bear. And while that incident happened, on a later episode, I will share with you another dark passage in my life. But I say all of this, and the reason I come forward, and by the way, no one in my family know about this. Certainly not my children, my grandchildren, only one or two friends. But I'm telling it because many would never even imagine that this could have happened to me. Many would not even imagine how one get through what happened to me. Because it was in that one day a double whammy. But it's the love of God. It is my compassion for living. It's the fact that I did not let self-doubt corrupt me. It was because I did not let hate corrupt me. I did not let evil corrupt me. And I just knew I had to get through. Although it was difficult, and I simply shut down, never to discuss it. That is until I met my husband.